Will Saquon Barkley play for the New York Giants this year? If traded, where could he go? We're going to talk about that and more on a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Let's roll, baby.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tyler Rowland from the Locked On Titans podcast, here with my co-host, Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals, breaking down all of the latest news in the NFL for you. It's Locked On NFL. It's your team every day, Monday through Friday, NFL content all year round on all apps and always for free. Make sure you get subscribed and stay subscribed to the Locked On NFL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We got some big news, Alex, right before we came on here to record today's show. It looks like Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants are still at a deadlock here. They're unable to agree on a long-term deal. According to some reporting here from Diana Russini from ESPN, she says, as we near the deadline for the Giants and Saquon Barkley to strike a long-term deal, I'm told the two sides remain at a stalemate. The deadline to strike a long-term deal is Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern. She followed that up by saying, Saquon has made it clear the franchise tag is undesirable. I'm told his availability for week one against the Dallas Cowboys will be in serious question if he does not get a long-term deal from the Giants. Alex, my real question to you is this. Do you really think that Saquon Barkley would go full Le'Veon Bell and skip the season rather than play on the franchise tag?
Yep. This isn't the Kansas City Chiefs, man. This isn't a Super Bowl contending team. He's got some leverage when he's been healthy. He's been good when he has. He's been hurt for a large portion. Tyler, when it comes to this, things like this, I have two questions. One, massively, whoever would play running back from today on? What's the point?
I'll play. Safety. If they have nobody else, I'll play.
Yeah, I know you would. Mike Allstott Jr. But I mean, why would you ever want to hitch your talent to the running back position when it's the most just disrespected position, especially with the offensive skill position players in the NFL? And the second question I have, because listen, the trade we'll talk about, but we've talked about this a lot as it pertains to the rookie pay scale. This is the first thing that I think of. Why not front load top 15 rookie contracts for running backs? Why do running backs have to be so much lower just because they're so much lower with normal contracts in the NFL from quarterback to wide receiver and down and edge rushers? If you know he's going to be a star, I don't like that the NFL says it has to be this much if you're drafted in the 7th spot. Something like that. But for him, Tyler, this is just going to be whoever's next. We're going to have the same conversation with every big-time running back. Christian McCaffrey was the last one where we didn't have it, and he was hurt for the majority of the season after he got the contract extension. So, I don't know, man. Would I sit out? Yeah, I would, because this is my one time to get a massive deal, just like Le'Veon Bell did when he went to the Jets.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I also think that Saquon Barkley probably is going to be he's not going to fall off the cliff like Le'Veon Bell did afterwards. I think there's some differences there with the players that would do that. But yeah, if you're Saquon, this is the one chance you have. If you get injured again while you're playing on the franchise tag, you're never going to get the generational payday that your talent is actually worth. Saquon Barkley is talented enough to get that generational payday, and he's not going to be able to get it again if he gets injured while playing on the franchise tag. And I think the franchise tag for a running back right now is only around $10 million. If I'm Saquon, I think that I'm worth $12 million for a couple of years. And I think what the Giants should do here is exactly what the Tennessee Titans did with Derrick Henry a couple of years ago. They said, hey, we're going to franchise tag you, and we want you to play on the franchise tag. It was $12 million then. It's crazy. Everything is going up. The salary cap's going up, and running back franchise tag value goes down. But what the Titans did was to say, hey, we'll give you 2 years of guaranteed money at the franchise tag rate. So instead of giving you a 1 year, $12 million deal, we're going to give you 2 years, $25 million. And now you have some security. We didn't break the bank for a ton of more years past. You know what I mean? No huge, large guarantee. You're just getting the franchise tag 2 years in a row. We're just going to do you the courtesy of guaranteeing it for you so that you can go out there and play your best. The Giants, they need to give Saquon Barkley something like that. I don't think that we'll ever see the Zeke Elliott 5 years, $90 million contract for a running back ever again. Maybe the NFL is cyclical. Maybe it'll come back around, but I just don't see that. The Giants, Daniel Jones is fool's gold. Like, he's good, but he's never going to be elite. And when you're not going to be an elite quarterback, when you're going to be the Kirk Cousins, you're going to be the Derek Carr, you're going to be guys in that range, Dak Prescott. When you're that type of guy, you need that sort of caliber of running back around you to be a Super Bowl team. Not just be a good team, but a Super Bowl team. So the Giants can't mess around here. Their backup options aren't good enough to mess around. I think they got to give Saquon a little bit, meet him halfway. But I guess it comes down to this. Like we said, if you're a team, are there any teams out there that you would consider a trade for Saquon Barkley to give him that kind of deal? I know salary caps are in a weird space, but Saquon doesn't want the 1-year deal. You could always, use void years and get creative. Anything's possible, like Kevin Garnett said. Now with the salary cap, are there any teams out there that come to mind for you that would be interested in trading for Saquon or that would make some sense?
I mean, it's, when you think running backs, I always think Baltimore first. That's just what they do. You put Baltimore there. We talked about Zeke Elliott earlier in the offseason as a low risk, potentially higher ceiling signing there. Saquon Barkley's skill set is as such to where he would fit in pretty much with any system. He's got the different skill sets. He can run the ball between the tackles. If you want to give him 8 or 10 targets a game out of the backfield, catching the ball, he's good out of the backfield in space. Like, the thing with Saquon Barkley is he's a chameleon as it pertains to that. I just don't know at this point what teams are close enough to where it's like, you know what, you bring in Saquon Barkley. I mean, you talk about Cincinnati. Like, we talk about the same teams when it comes to any sort of higher end running back, when we talk about Dalvin Cook, et cetera. Like, Saquon Barkley is a very special talent when he's healthy and when he's blocked for well. Like, his first couple of seasons, the offensive line was terrible, and then he tore his ACL, and then that was it. So I don't really think, like, the reason why I'm kind of wishy-washy with this answer is there are very few teams that are one player away from Super Bowl contention. Like, I know the AFC's stacked, but they're all B- teams. The NFC has a couple up top, but they don't need running backs. So, I don't really know. I mean, I always think Baltimore. I don't think
it has to be that. I don't think a team that comes to mind immediately for me is the Bears. They have Khalil Herbert, good player, but I think he's a little overrated, fantasy and everything. They added some players. Yes, they added Deontay Foreman as well, Roshan Johnson in the draft out of Texas. But those are more power players. Those aren't an explosive threat like Saquon Barkley. You put Saquon Barkley and Justin Fields in the same backfield with the running ability of Justin Fields. I think that is something that we've talked about the Bears as a sleeper team, as like a dark horse Super Bowl team with all the talent that they put together. Do it more. Justin Fields is still on his rookie contract. You can give Saquon Barkley a contract that you can manage in the net. Like I said, a 2-year deal. Give him 25, 26 million. Use some void years on the back end of the contract to make salary cap work. Add in that talent and make a push while the NFC is wide open. I think a team like the Chicago Bears makes a ton of sense. But the New York Giants aren't the only New York team in the news. The New York Jets have finally been given hard knocks after we basically knew that it was going to happen for forever. They finally had to take it and take their medicine there. So we'll talk about some of the more interesting things that we're watching for with the New York Jets on Hard Knocks. Plus, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the top safeties in the NFL and talk about a recent ranking of them. But before we get into that, do want to let you guys know our partners at eBay Motors are the sponsor for today's show. eBay Motors has teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to be providing you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's see who Vinny has picked out for this week's eBay's guaranteed fit fantasy pick of the week. And it is Justin Jefferson. When you're on the clock for the first overall pick in your 2023 fantasy drafts, it is okay to get downright giddy over doing the gritty. Yes, I just read that out loud. But what I want to say is I actually have the first pick in one of my fantasy drafts this year, and I'm going with Justin Jefferson as well. The Vikings wide receiver is a guaranteed fit on your roster. Over the past 2 seasons, Jefferson has led the league in receptions and receiving yards. He's going to remain a dominant number 1 option and a target monster. He's a guaranteed fit to ignite your roster and the rest of your fantasy football lineup so that you can head towards winning success. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit because it's the same thing with your vehicle. With eBay's guaranteed fit, over 220 million parts and accessories for your vehicle, you're going to have everything you need right at your fingertips. You can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it. And they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. Go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating it if your ride needs a little fixing up. Right now, you know that you'll be set for success from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, folks, we are back. It's time to continue a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Shout out to our everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. It is Monday through Friday NFL content all year long on all apps, always for free. Get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On NFL podcast, where it's your team every day. The Jets are on Hard Knocks. Alex, I've been talking for 4 minutes straight. You tell me, what are you watching for with the Jets on Hard Knocks this year?
Why are we here?
You know the answer. I gave this to you just personally, just so you could tell the people. What is the number one thing we're watching on Jets Hard Knocks? Say his name. Say it.
This sucks. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers can bring under the bright lights that he's always coveted, even though he says he doesn't. He's getting everything. So for us as fans and as media members alike, this is the best case scenario. It just is. And you know what? I hope Aaron Rodgers turns into like Tiger Woods later in his career, where he's laughing, he's a good mentor, he's teaching, he's jovial, he's not, snickering every time,
that would be now. The ball. That would have to be now.
Right.
He's in that part of his career for football.
That's what I'm saying. This is the reclamation project. If Aaron Rodgers wants. So let's just front load this. He got exactly what he wanted. He got exactly the destination that he wanted to go to. And now he has the keys to the castle. Okay. So if there's any sort of complaining from Aaron Rodgers from here on out, just like the last 5 years, he has nobody but to blame but himself. Nobody to blame but himself. Now, with Hard Knocks, obviously it's going to be fascinating. But it's not just Aaron Rodgers. We could see a budding wide receiver 1 and running back 1 on the same roster with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Like what Garrett Wilson did last year in spurts was incredible for any wide receiver, let alone a first-year player playing less than 17 games in his career. Like the juke to the sideline, back to the middle, back to the sideline, where he juked 2 guys out of their shorts. Not everybody can do that. And with him and Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson could rival Justin Jefferson for numbers this year. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had, with Devontae Adams gone, he didn't have anybody last year. Christian Watson showed flashes, but it's Aaron Rodgers and the young players. I don't even care about the on-the-field stuff. I want to see Aaron Rodgers endear himself to a team and a media outlet there that is rough, tough, and hasn't won a whole lot recently. So that's what I'm fascinated in, like a case study form, not even necessarily about the football.
No, I agree with you. It's not the football at all. The number one thing that I was going to say is how Aaron Rodgers interacts with Zach Wilson. That is like the number one storyline that I'm watching for is how those two interact, because they've acted buddy-buddy socially and publicly before. You know what I mean? Like, things are all good. But Wilson did say the make life living hell for whatever veteran quarterback they bring in, and Rodgers has joked about it. And it's like one of those things where it's like, we know that we really don't like each other, so we're going to go out of our way to act like we like each other. It could be one of those like Lakeith Stanfield, whatever. It's the movie in where they're like, your shoes look good today. Oh, man, what's that fragrance? You smell so great. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have a great month. And they're like insulting each other with compliments. I feel like that's kind of like what we're getting from Rodgers and Zach Wilson. So I'm curious. Hard Knocks, sometimes you can really tell. Like, that's the one thing I love about Hard Knocks is you can really tell certain people's personalities after a little while. Like, they can only fake it so much. Most of the time we can see through the fakeness to say. So I'm just curious to see how they interact with each other. I think that's the best thing to watch. And likewise, how Rodgers interacts with Saleh, his head coach, being a defensive guy. Rodgers is like that California cool, don't take anything too serious. And Saleh is like veins popping out of his head on 2nd and 2. You know what I mean? So I just am curious to see those interactions. But one other thing I want to throw in is Mekhi Becton. So Becton, former first-round pick, has shown some flashes of greatness. He's all over social media all the time, arguing with fans, defending himself, this and that. Had some injuries in the past, some concerns about his weight. I'm curious to see what his personality is like, and curious to see if he's actually putting in the work like he says, because he defends himself a lot. There are some other people out there who defend him as well. And I'm just like, I want to see it, because the Jets could have a really good offensive line if a little bit of health stuff breaks. And I just want to see how Mekhi Becton acts. And we didn't even talk about the Jets defense. This is a great Hard Knocks, I got to say.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I mean, that's funny with Zach Wilson. I wonder how many of the jokes of his old nickname that he got were his proclivity to date a certain demographic of women, if that would come up. The thing with Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers is going to love him because Zach Wilson isn't a threat. If Zach Wilson was a threat, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be here. So that's the easiest part. This isn't a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation. This isn't an Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation, because it's not organic. They didn't draft a quarterback when Aaron Rodgers still had 3 or 4 good years left. He can be as big as Buddy. That's not showing anything to me about Aaron Rodgers' evolution as a human being, because he's a puppy dog. Zach Wilson is 23 years old. He played terribly last year. He got outplayed by Joe Flacco and Mike White. Like, it's not, he's not a threat.
Right.
So, but with Robert Saleh, for sure. I mean, Robert Saleh played in the league. Matt LaFleur didn't. So we'll see if he's got that inherent respect from a large human being who's going to be his head coach, like, I think that Robert Saleh, like, people still remember him from San Francisco. Okay. So he's got that history. And like, when he was on the sidelines, they were winning games. They were one of the best defenses in the league. Even though the Jets have kind of come out of the gate slowly, they won 7 games last year when nobody expected them to win that many. This is a Dan Campbell light situation where they're slowly changing the culture in with an organization that's won some but not a lot since Hollywood Joe. Like, this is going to be fun because it's Aaron Rodgers. I think it's more about the young guys. The head coach is fine. Zach Wilson's kind of an ancillary piece, but overall it was the right choice. And just because the rest of the teams possible made this an easier choice. Like, if there was another option for it, and again, remember, as we move on to the next segment, the Green Bay Packers will be the Hard Knocks team selected for 2024. You heard it here last week. That's my prediction for 2024. As we roll on, Tyler, ESPN, the 4-letter network, is doing their top 10 lists as we are jumping quickly into list season. It's one of our most fun seasons. It's really like a nice little appy going right into training camp. Safeties up next. Tyler's going to give the list We're going to react next as we roll on here. Locked on NFL Thursday. Follow him on Twitter at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. We'll talk to you after the break. Tyler, this podcast goes so quickly every week.
It does. It moves quick. It moves quickly out here.
For all your Titans news, check him out Monday through Friday, free wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. Tyler Rowland at Tic Tac Titans. Follow me at Clancy's Corner, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube for all your Arizona Cardinals news. We make up Locked On NFL Thursday, your team every day. Tyler, top safeties in the NFL ranked. Give us the list. And you know what? We've got about 7 minutes left. Take 6 of them if you want, because I know you're going to want to with this list.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So Minkah Fitzpatrick, number 1, Pittsburgh Steelers. Derwin James, Los Angeles Chargers, number 2. Number 3, Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos. Number 4, Budda Baker. Baker? I don't know how that happened. Too many A's in the name. Budda Baker, Arizona Cardinals. Number 5, Javon Holland, Miami Dolphins. Number 6, Jesse Bates, Atlanta Falcons. Number 7, Kevin Byard, Tennessee Titans. Number 8, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Detroit Lions. Number 9, Talanoa Hufanga. I think I said his first name right. San Francisco 49ers. And then Antoine Winfield Jr. at number 10 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Honorable mentions, Marcus Williams, Ravens, Quandre Diggs, Seahawks, Kyle Duggar, Patriots, Jordan Poyer, Bills, Micah Hyde, Bills, Xavier McKinney, Giants, Jalen Petrie, Texans. I love Jalen Petrie. Just want to throw that out there before we dive into this. But Alex, it's summertime, and I don't even try to lie to the people. A little bit of home cooking the past few weeks, but it is list season, as you said, and here's what I want to say. As a person who covers the Titans, I understand that with it being the Titans, they are going to just typically not get maybe the credit that they deserve because they're an undercovered team that doesn't have a lot of national interest. I get all that. I do. You know what I mean? It's not fun to talk about the Titans. So I understand. But Kevin Byard at number 7. And shout out to ESPN. They put out these lists, a top 10 list, every position. Look, like Alex said, it's fun to just talk about why we're getting closer and closer to actual football to discuss. These lists are just, in my opinion, it just gets us warmed up for all the debates and discussion that we'll have during the season. But it is the appetizer. But Kevin Byard has had 27 interceptions since he came into the NFL. I believe that's the most out of all safeties. He's been an all-pro twice, including 2021. It's not like it was forever ago. He was the best safety in the NFL in 2021. Last season, 2022, he had 4 interceptions. He's had 4 interceptions 6 out of 7 years of his NFL career. Always gets interceptions. And had over 100 tackles. He played every single game. The Titans tanked a game against Dallas on Thursday Night Football, if you remember, at the end of the season. In Week 17, they sat Henry. They sat their entire offensive line. They sat all of their good guys on defense. I had the pleasure of paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go to that game. Yeah, through a freaking, oh, man, whatever. Great game to pick to go to. Mom's a Cowboys fan. It was a present. It's worth it. Don't let me complain. But Kevin Byard fell 4 spots after a season of 100 tackles, playing all 17 games, getting 4 interceptions. What are we doing here? I mean, Javon Holland is going into year 3. Year 3. He had 2 interceptions last year and under 100 tackles. I mean, he's a good player, but I think he deserves to be on the list. But how is Kevin Byard not in the top 5? And Jesse Bates. Ask Cincinnati Bengals fans about somebody ranked Jesse Bates number 1 on this list. Who ranked Jesse Bates number 1? Ask anybody who watched the Bengals consistently last year, and they would tell you that Jesse Bates had a down year. He had a down year. The Bengals let him go. The Bengals let him walk to go to Atlanta. I think that both of these guys, Bates and Holland, are good players. Don't get me wrong. But a 2-time first-team All-Pro that had 4 interceptions and 100 tackles last year? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, man. And Derwin James. I think he's a really, really good player. Don't get me wrong, but, I mean, just more consistency. I feel bad because I love Derwin James. He's like one of my favorite players. So I just think like Justin Simmons. I would put Justin Simmons over Derwin James. I would keep Derwin James, Justin Simmons, Minka Fitzpatrick, even Budda Baker. I'll give Budda Baker, even though I would, if you put a gun in my head, I'm probably going with Kevin Byard. But there's just no way that Holland and Bates should, especially Bates. There's no way that they should be over Kevin Byard. So. Alex, do you have anything to add to that? I feel much better now, which is what's most important.
You need a snack. This is what you need.
Yes, I'm hungry.
You need some Ritz crackers or something with some cheese. You need a little jalapeno cheddar on top or something.
Right, because I'm salty right now.
It's so stupid.
Oh God.
Yeah. I think that's about right. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick. Here's the thing. What the hell was Miami doing?
I don't know, man. They got rid of him and Tunsil, and they're both like, other than Trent Williams, Tunsil's the best offensive lineman in the league, and then Minka Fitzpatrick's the best. I mean, yeah. What were they doing?
But having said that, I mean, the front seven, the CBs were a little bit better over in Pittsburgh than they were in Miami at the time. But Minka Fitzpatrick, like that, what a steal that was. But yeah, like my takeaway here is Budda Baker getting the national recognition he deserves. That's kind of my thing here is Budda Baker's been a very polarizing, just like the Titans. Cardinals aren't talked about much unless they start 7-0, 10-2. Budda Baker's been Budda Baker's been the heart and soul of that team since he's been drafted. That was the best draft pick Steve Keim made in his tenure, trading up to the top of the second round to draft Budda Baker out of Washington, where he plays at a college where everybody on I-95 was asleep by the time that he starts playing at Washington. And, that's something that's been a conundrum in Phoenix, whether, they got to extend him or not. I think they should have extended him already, given whatever he wants. But I like the recognition he deserves at 4. Maybe it's a little high. Maybe he should have been 5 or 6. But it's nice to see him getting the recognition he deserves for being he's just a good dude. He's the heart and soul of a team who's been failing for so long that needs a reboot. But I agree with you with Kevin Byard, too. I think he should be higher.
Yeah, it's crazy. Kevin Byard's played every single game of his NFL career. Every single game.
Surprised Quandre Diggs is a little bit higher, too, out of honorable mention. But
yep. With you there. But all right. Anyways, that'll do it with the list. That'll do it with the Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Make sure that you're back tomorrow. Your boy Q and Chris Carter going to be breaking down all the latest news with you guys. But that is going to do it for me and Alex. Start your weekend early. It is Thursday after all, and stay safe out there.